the Dauntless. She's stunned at how much flavor there is in the meal. There are two versions, one safe for general galactic consumption, and one for humans and those with redundant blood purifying and countertoxin organs. So mostly just humans and the more insane species like Canador and such. What is this again? Pissa? Pizza, a basic idea with nearly infinite variations. This one I'm eating actually has that strange lizard thing for the meat on it. Lanrak, a very common domesticated animal the galaxy over. Weird texture, weirder taste. Your plate and cup are filled to the brim with poison and you think the Lanrak is bad? It's not bad, it's just weird. Is this what crocodile tastes like? I was told it tastes like chicken. Crocodile. A crocodile is a reptilian ambush predator that spends enough of its time in the water to be mistaken for amphibious, nasty bite and very sneaky for a beast its size. Barnabas answers as he folds his slice and inhales half of it. I'm almost positive this isn't breakfast-appropriate food. It's lunchtime somewhere. Yes, but that's about 6,000 kilometers that way. She replies, pointing past him, and he shrugs. Food is food. You're hungry. I'm hungry, so we're solving the problem. Yes, but she's on her second slice and he's gone through 6 double-sized slices. I have more internal organs, muscles, denser bones, and a few other things that need the fuel. Not to mention a man my size needs a lot of protein and calories to keep things moving. You're not that tall. I was referring to physical conditioning. He replies somewhat defensively. So, what if he's not 6'6"? He's still chiseled out of solid stone. She gives him an odd look and openly tries to decipher the expression on his face. Clearly, she's starting to pay much more attention, which is good, because a noisy mixed mess hall and while the fresh recruits of other species and friends invited in may stand out like flares in the darkness here, the vast majority of the diners are human and therefore invisible to her senses. Although he can immediately tell when his fellow man of hue starts using axiom as she quickly turns to get a good look at them. And then his communicator goes off. He checks it and his eyebrows go almost straight up. I'll be back. The Admiral wants to speak with me. The head of your order and polity? Yes. It's possible he wants a status update. Have you not filed your paperwork? Her question is reproving and he holds out his hands in a placating gesture. I have, but confirmation is a big thing around here. This shouldn't take too long. He says simply, and she nods. Sir, am I being pimped? Specialist Cenk Barnabas asks after a few moments. I wouldn't put it like that, Solider. I'm not asking anything of you that I wouldn't do myself. Admiral Cistern replies. Hell, he did so with me. Ambassador Nikti Tal remarks from in his lap. How the hell does this situation make sense to me? Barnabas asks with a groan as he slowly palms his face and rubs the side of his temple to try and get a better grip on the situation. You are permitted to refuse soldier, Admiral Cistern says, and Barnabas straightens up. I'm not refusing, sir. I'm just coming to grips with the fact that my military orders include seduction and possible fornication. Just possible, Ambassador Tal asks, teasingly, even as she pointedly adjusts how she's sitting in the Admiral's lap. The next bomb could be under my seat, Barnabas says grimly. Likely not. I highly doubt you will be going anywhere without checking things first. You understand these weapons and will not be making the same mistake twice. Yes, sir. Now, as to why I want you to accept Miss Arlie Toss's offer. The psychological profile of this woman means that when she has decided upon a target, there are few things to dissuade her. Furthermore, by accepting it, we retain some control of the Arlie Toss effort to create the newest and greatest warriors in the galaxy. I see, Barnabas states. Once again, soldier. These orders are technically beyond my authority. I'm not telling you to do this, I'm asking you. Barnabas begins as he thinks. I am unwilling to have any child of mine abused and broken for the sake of making some kind of absurd warrior. I understand, Admiral Cistern states. If these Takra push, I am pushing back. I understand that I'm going to be stalked by an increasingly manic were-smilodon if I don't accept. No, you will not. If you choose not to accept, I will have them kept away from you. I will not have my soldiers stalked or harassed, Admiral Cistern assures him, and he thinks. Still, a girl that's powerful backup in danger is completely DTF and probably kinky to the point I'll need to worry about being eaten, literally. Is this really the human thought process? Ambassador Tal asks with a slight giggle. Barnabas finally realizes he's been thinking out loud. Depends on the human, Admiral Cistern notes. Sir, what's the tactical readout of the situation? Barnabas asks. In relation to, Sir Philip says from behind Barnabas, who outright jumps in shock and has to take a few moments to calm down. The bombs, we believe there's a planner with either an overeager or incompetent underling to do the actual on the ground work. Both uses of bombs were good ideas poorly executed. The attack on the council building was clearly intended to cause damage to a specific part the bomb was clearly not in. Furthermore, since it was relying on the courier not being as early as her reputation would suggest she would be, it would have been far wiser to simply have the package dropped off at a specific office or doorway rather than into the main center with a timer to have it detonate on the way. Likewise with the car explosive, the bomb was just the right size to destroy the engine, but it was in the wrong place if the intention was to kill either of you. Therefore, we suspect two parties, one with the plans and the executor who's either overeager or overthinking things. The proper old butler continues after Barnabas has control of himself again and his eyes stop scanning the room for more disappearing servicemen. I had come to similar conclusions. The more we've dug, the more we've learned that we were just a hair's breadth from things being very, very different and probably far more in the favor of our bomber. So, someone's screwing up somewhere. If these were intimidation tactics, then the first was too powerful and the second was timed so badly it was a parody. What would the best time for the second bomb to be intimidation-wise? We're 10 steps from the car and it explodes. That's about as clear of a back off as you can tell someone with explosives, Barnabas states before thinking. This is actually making responding to the Takra sound better though. Someone who can become a massive battle beast at the drop of a hat would be dead useful in an ambush or really any kind of firefight. That kind of ability grabs attention like a screaming child with firecrackers. It would give me all the time I need to get civilians to safety and then pick off targets at my leisure, provided any are left unmauled at that point. So you're thinking of accepting? Well, they're trying to make super soldiers right? Very long term is also something I need to think about with the upper limits of my aging ripped right off thanks to healing comas and the like. So getting in when the getting's good would be a very good way to at least try and steer that potential horror show away from being one. And if it is a horror show? Admiral Cistern asks. Insider information to rip it apart. Opposite situation? It's all sunshine and rainbows? I check into detox and figure out what the fuck was put into my system. Sir, Barnabas jokes and there's a grin from his commanding officer. In all seriousness, if it goes well, great. We've got some amazing recruits for the future. If not, then I'm in a position to either yank it on track or rip it apart. It's smart to get in and accept the werewoman's offer. It's just still wrapping your head around being the eye and arm candy of the galaxy? Ambassador Tal asks and Barnabas snorts, still getting a handle on being hoed out by my commanding officer. I have asked you to do this, not ordered you to do this, and even if it was a direct order, you would have the legal right to refuse, Admiral Cistern reminds him. Oh, come on, play along already, Barnabas chides his commanding officer who smiles. You'll note that my uniform is predominantly white, not purple. I'm not putting on a pimp routine. I don't have the hat for it. Admiral Cistern says, and Cenk snorts in amusement. I will buy you the hat if you're willing to play along. I do not have the hat for it yet. Admiral Cistern amends, and Specialist Cenk Barnabas finally loses control and dissolves into helpless laughter. Permission to leave, sir? Barnabas asks, after getting control of himself. Granted. Expect an update shortly about meeting your soon-to-be bride, Admiral Cistern says, and receives a snappy salute from his soldier, who then walks out of the room. The door closes behind him, and the founder and head of the Undaunted sighs as he sinks somewhat into his chair. You didn't like that, Nikti notes, and his arms wrap around her. It's going to take me years before I'm truly comfortable assigning soldiers romantic partners. It's far more power over their lives than I should have, and I can already order them into no-win suicidal scenarios. Oh, this isn't as bad as anyone thinks. I mean, really, what's wrong with you guys? Many of us are from cultures that place a large stigma on forcing people into relationships. It's considered a fairly large taboo by the majority of the ship. Irregardless, this isn't a bad match. I've done my digging. The Takra, as they prefer to call themselves, may appear to be a fairly primitive and crude people at first glance, but it is when one takes a second look and truly understands what they're seeing that the race actually has a great deal of virtue to it. Elaborate, Admiral Cistern orders him. Simply put, while the species is indeed clannish and insular, impressing them leads to rampant adoption. These adoptions are almost always a higher clan taking in the best and brightest of smaller and weaker clans, keeping those clans weak but allowing advancements for the individuals. It looks fairly brutish from the outside, but there's nothing legally or even culturally stopping our Solidar from working his way up the Takra way of life until he sits on the Council of Elders to the first and foremost clan of the entire species. So they're not exclusive on an axis of race or species, just competence, which means he's going to be getting even more attention soon. We brought only the best of the best, and that tends to catch a lot of attention. Indeed, sir, the crash course in special operations and military capabilities that our men had to pass places the average Undaunted fairly high on the galactic scale of individual power. Only very exclusive groups from very powerful races can come close. Well, duh. That's because you are yourselves a very exclusive group from a very powerful race. There's just not that many of you right now. Nikti protests and Sir Philip nods. Indeed, madam, we've also attracted the attention of those groups. Zayden and Yaoya hunters, Canador war clans, Apuk battle princesses. Now Takra maidens seeking the most powerful daughters imaginable. I can't wait to see how you all react to a primal Nagasha demigoddess, Nikti notes. Haven't we already? Admiral Cistern asks, and Ambassador Tal looks up at him in shock. You have. Our interactions are distant but very cordial. It's very much a situation where she's watching us even as we watch her, Sir Philip admits. I have tea with her next Tuesday. Oh, whoa. Those girls end up with religions following them around and you're just having tea with one? Yes, she's quite the lovely woman and has fascinating insights to share, Sir Philip replies calmly. But that's enough about my social life. So in summation, humans are an apex species. We are naturally drawn to our own and they to us in turn. So, a girl like me's the odd one out? Ambassador Tal asks, and Sir Philip chuckles. If it makes you feel more important, madam, then you most certainly are. And if I don't like it, then I must extend my most sincere apologies. Sir Philip returns as smooth as silk. I was wondering why there were penned in times for a Kris Kringle to meet with Mother Hubbard. You still haven't told her your name and position. She knows, as I know many of her secrets as well, but the fun is dancing around them while fishing for more. Freaking spies. You can never do things simply, can you? I do many things simply, I just don't draw attention to them. You do realize that if you keep pushing her, she's liable to kidnap you, rejuvenate you, and marry you off to one of her primal daughters. There's also fun in seeing how close to the edge I can bring her without tipping over. I'm going to be down a butler one way or another in 6 months, aren't I? Unfortunately so, sir.